YouTube, we're back with the ASH26. Where we last left off, we were working on the gear door for the landing gear for the Retract. And basically we have that glued in now. And so now we just have to, and then we have kind of got these gaps filled in around here. Can definitely see just a little bit of texture from the glue, but it's held in there really tight, so there shouldn't be any grass and stuff getting in around the edges. Now there'll probably be grass and stuff getting in around the actual door itself, but I don't think there's a whole lot we can do about that. So in this video I hope to accomplish getting this mounted and getting the linkage attached here. So that's my goal for this video, and I think that's a very manageable goal. So now in the first place, of course, we have to get some holes drilled. Once we have the holes drilled, we can go ahead and get some screws installed to hold the servo in place, and shortly we'll be needing to have everything energized and rehooked back up now that we have the bottom doors glued in. The other thing is, on this, we never did address this piece here, and I think maybe now would be a good time to do. I'm tempted to just use CA, but you know what? Maybe I should just be on the safe side and use a little of this stuff. And what this is going to do is that's going to be like a nice rubbery, forgiving connection point. And you can see it's just like the milkiest, weirdest crap ever. This is canopy glue. So all that's going to do is it's just going to make kind of like a nice little subtle hold point, because it's already held in by pressure. And my hope and prayer for this step is that when that all sets up, which is going to take like 473 years, this stuff does take forever to set up. So if you're in a hurry and you're impatient like me, you may not like this stuff very much, but it does work really good. That's how I bonded my front and back half, or the inside and outside of the canopy together. And you'll notice I spread it all over the place. Well, that's just because the nozzle's cut so thick. I'm going to go in there now and just clean it up a little bit. That's going to give us some flexibility. So then, in the event of a rough landing, okay, so now that I've got it spread out a little bit, I'm going to just wipe this little area to make sure it's not like just a total mess. That should be plenty good. Throw it away. Alright, so the pieces I need are out here. So these are the pieces. And then I've got these extra standoffs if they're needed. I don't know if they're going to be needed. And then I already have a bunch of these little linkages. These may or may not work for the landing gear adapter. If they don't, I'll just bend one. So we'll just keep that in hand. And you can see I've already got one of these extra stands in there. I'm actually kind of curious if those things ever actually got glued, or if they were glued by the factory. Or, I mean, if they were glued by the original owner before he sold this to me. Okay, so which linkage are we going to use? I'm assuming we'll use the same one we did for the rudder. So it's going to be something like this. Obviously you want to take advantage of the full throw. And then looks like on this linkage. We've got a little bit of extra thread. We can move this turnbuckle out, make it a little bit longer. I don't know if that's going to be long enough though, but there's nobody saying for sure that we're going to need that much room either. So maybe we'll just keep our options open on that for now. See if this thing will even line up in here. So we'll cut off the unused. Oops. Cut off the unused portion of this as well. So how much do we actually need for throw? That's full retraction, and then that's full deployment. That's full retraction, full deployment. And then it self-locks. So there's no pressure transferred into the actual mechanical action until you move it. So we'll see how much throw we actually need. We might be about right already. That'd be pretty cool if it was. Let's try this. These were the little adapters, hardware that came with the plane. So, I mean, not really much to write home about, let's just put it that way. But it's fine. Obviously, we'll have to fiddle with that. Okay, so we got these little black insert things. They're going to go next to the screws. It looks like I had some extras from the last one, so we're actually looking in the wrong bag right now. There we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're short. They came with an extra screw like this too, each of them. And we use those extra screws actually to reach through the rudder back here because it was a long enough screw, still real small. So that's my next thing. Just going ahead and get a couple screw holes in there. Let's check on the drill bit size. Oh, I already have the drill bit in there, don't I? 1/16 of an inch. Yep. Okay, so I'm gonna probably have to hook this up just to make sure we're on the right end of things. So you got the elevator, of course, isn't super critical right now for this test, but it'll be fine for getting a test in. I always like to test all the control surfaces together as frequently as possible. Okay, so this is the bind plug, so that's going to be our gear. Okay, so it's nice to test them before you have it all wired up, especially on a point that's got a mechanical linkage that's going to break if you're not careful. So we'll want to get all this crap out of the way except for the ones we need. That one fell into there. That's nice. Okay, got all that picked up, so get the radio system on. I was out flying tonight for a couple of quick flights. Okay, throttle cuts on. Wouldn't matter anyway because we have the motor literally detached from the ESC. Okay, so let's plug in the... Alright, so we gotta be a little bit careful how we do this. I'm actually gonna go for a little extra support. And what that's gonna do is hopefully lift up the plane. So that the landing gear can do its retraction. Servo setup, travel, speed for, it's not gear, it's auxiliary 2. we'll set it to like 1 second. The rationale behind the 1 second is so things don't move quick. Like that. That was a little too quick. The other thing is we may not need as much throw as we have in it right now. Okay. So, if that thing were to be held still, we're not quite getting to the right positions. And that's the reason we do this now, instead of doing it after all the holes have been drilled. Okay, so I'm going to actually do something a little bit different. No, I don't want to do that. Oh, that looks so cool. That's awesome. Okay, so the only thing I don't like about that is you see how we're putting that nasty angle on there? I don't have a problem with the action, but I guess honestly if it was perfect world, you'd have a bend in there. Okay, that's what I was thinking we'd end up having to do. We're going to just bend our own rod instead of using this rod, because this thing's going to just eventually break. See that nasty bend? And it looks like we're using up pretty much the whole throw. So now we know that. Let's go ahead and get this thing screwed in here. A couple different ways to do that. The easy way is to probably go ahead and go with, I can either try to screw in one side, force it over, because you see how we got a little play there. These servos are not always exactly the same size, you know, so in this case, if we pick a position like that, that gives me a full bite in the back, and then we're forcing it back to one position in the front. But I can still grab a little bit of material here. So you just have to make that tough call. Well, that was sucky. It just shot through. I didn't expect it to do that, but I think if I recall, these screws didn't like my other screwdriver. So I'll just get that in there. And then we'll slip it into this thing. Just getting rid of that dust. Okay, so now I put that screw or drilled at a slight angle in order that I bite more material as I go in, and then I'll also direct the screw in at a slight angle, but mostly just so I can keep everything taut up against the side and minimize the amount of play. There's going to be a little bit in there, but we're going to take that play out when we do the other hole. Okay, so it's not the end of the world if you have a little teeny bit of play on something like this where it's a landing gear. Okay, so we got that pretty darn tight. I'd like to get a better screwdriver and see if it'll actually drive in a little bit more. Oh yeah, better screwdriver made a big difference. Okay, so now I just need to get that front screw, or I guess in this case that'd be the rear screw, screwed in. I'll find right in the center, except I want to pull it over toward the outboard portion of the fuse. Now this side, you don't want to make it all the way through, because you're going to hit your servo wire, because the servo wire comes out on that side of the servo, the signal wire. So if you can avoid that, that'd be a very smart thing to do. Okay, so we'll just throw this down in there. If you ever have one of these, you can get right on the edge and you're concerned about not getting a good enough bite, I'll just take a little CA, shoot it down in where I'm putting the screw in, put the screw in right into the CA, and then later on, if you ever need to get it out, it'll either break away the CA or it'll, so then your glue joint's gone. But unless you're crashing, it's going to be generally fine, in my experience. So the CA acts as like the nut. Need quite a bit more still on that. Man, I'm really having a tweak on that thing to get it to go. Okay, so now it's in, nice and sturdy. And, you know, honestly, my preferred method would be to have this so that it doesn't ever get in a situation where I even need to modify it. So like if I had a shape that was like an L shape, that would potentially resolve that problem altogether. Which way is this? I'm trying to remember which way I got my switch. I want the gear up like this. Okay, so that's the up position. And then this position is the position where you want it to be safe, you know? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go in here to System Setup. Yes. Channel Assign. Left lever. Okay. So now I've got infinite control. See? Just for the moment. What am I hitting, guys? That is so cool. Now it's still got the 1 second delay. That looks so neat. I think it's just running into other little things, like this wire here. Okay, so if somebody was motivated to do this, could also just take this off and bend that rod. If you really wanted to use that rod, it'd be fine. These things are too thin, they're not going to do anything for me. I want these, they got a bigger, wider nose on them. So watch this, guys. Grab that, grab this, give it a bend. And you'll be surprised how good that's going to work. Now, whoops, got that in the wrong position. Okay. Okay, now I need a little bit more finite adjustment there. See, it's wanting to pivot on me now. Okay, so let's see how that works now. Okay, so that's the position where it's getting really ticked off at me. Plus, even if we give this thing up, it's not the end of the world. I can just put a regular wire on if I don't like the way it works. See, now it's in that middle of the range where it's kind of putting pressure on it. I still don't like the fact that there's pressure on that. Well, let's be honest, guys, this is always going to have, it's always going to have a certain amount of what is that click noise coming from? Okay, so that angle is pretty good looking right there. I'm just kind of trying to make an assessment as to whether or not that's going to be a problem. This would be good if you had a ball joint. The ball joint would be nice. You could transfer two different angles. Okay, well, as usual, I'm torn. Big surprise. Okay, so what I've decided is not to decide. And when I say I've decided not to decide, I mean I've decided to do something else right now. Sometimes it's better to just come back to it if you're not 100% sure what you want to do. Also, I was thinking if I lengthen that linkage, I could get the play in that action that I'm looking for. Remember how I wanted to do an L shape, where I'd actually have it articulate from the L? That's kind of a bit of a pipe dream anyway. It'd be a lot easier to just make a linkage. So I'm not going to mess with it. Not that portion. I'm not going to do it that way. That shot across the room and then back in. I didn't. That was convenient. So yeah, so really, in this case, it's not a super critical difference. This is one of those components that could fail in flight. You wouldn't want it to, but you get the plane back in one piece and figure it out later. Of course, the best bet is to not have anything fail mid-flight. That would suck, especially on a brand new piece of gear. Oops. See if I kind of split the difference. If I kind of split the difference with the position of that thing, then when I'm halfway through the throw, kind of get the best of both worlds. With real limited side load on that, that might be the way to go. Okay, so guys, I just want to show you what I'm thinking. See, when this comes back over and folds over to the outboard side, that's where we're getting our problem. So if I just had a longer linkage and I could take more of a linear stroke, we're going to have less problems there. So that's what I'm going to try to do real quick. I'm going to try to get a longer linkage. I'm going to see if I got another one real quick. Okay, so I got all this music wire here, and 0.81 millimeters is probably fine. I do have some bigger stuff in here too, which I'll tell you what the size is here in just a second when I slide it out. That'd be a 1 millimeter. And to be honest with you, I'm wondering if maybe we should go with a little bit thicker, since this is the landing gear. You don't want to have it just buckle under its own weight. And I always check for, you know, if I've got another one that's already been cut. I'll have to get a little bit more of this stuff. Wait. So this is Precision Metals, stock number 497, 0.039 music wire. You can get this stuff for a couple bucks, and just get it at your local hobby shop. Nothing magical about these things. 1 millimeter size. You're not going to want to cut them with this, but I'm going to do it because I'm lazy, because you might ruin the sharpness of it. Okay, so now remember what I was saying earlier before I ran out there to find the parts. I didn't have a longer one like this. This was the longest one I have of this style of turnbuckle. So really what I need to do is just see how much farther I got to reach. If I go full sweep all the way back, all the way forth. See, because if I go all the way back here and then all the way forward, which way is that going to go? Okay, so all the way back, this is the direction we want it to lock into. Whoops. We want this side to be the side that it's kind of locked almost. Yeah, we're not going to get that because it's always going to be over here. So but see, that's the funny thing, is we're really not that far off. Let's see how much longer we need it to be. Sometimes it's easier to work with a temporary piece until you get the shape down, but in this case I'm going to be working with what I know I need. So I'm just going to cut it a little bit longer than I know I need it to be. Then I can get this junk out of the way. A little bit more wasteful that way, of course. This little bendy pair of pliers always works nice for this step, because you can get into where this bend is and it won't give. Just super nice. Okay, so we got our finished end over here. Come from the factory finished, and just have to give it a quick clean. Okay, so we're going to hit our first bend in here. It's like I was talking about, you can go right in there like that, hold it tight and get our bend. Okay, we're not going to have an excessive amount of play or anything. So we're basically going to make a little Z-bend here. Then right at the tip, we'll hang on to it real tight. Okay, real tight. And then get our Z-bend in there. Okay, that gives us something to fix this on. And then we can put this in here. Whoops. Now what I want to do is I want to put a little bit of a mechanical adjustment on here, which is going to allow us to make a quick adjustment to the home position or the full down position. I always like to put a little adjustment in my linkages, and it's paid dividends a number of times, because once you get all this crap built, it's a lot easier to just go in there and tweak it with a screwdriver, or not a screwdriver, but pair of pliers, you do lose a little bit of strength. But I mean, this thing's going to be plenty strong. Alright, so now let's check our throw again. Okay, so that's where that's going to be. Okay, so then that's going to need to be bent there. Okay, so now we can lift this out, and we need to bend it at just right at 90 degrees from our first bend. Except, of course, I didn't get it quite exactly right. So I can hang on to my little adjustment point. I can square it up to where we're satisfied. Now I'm going to cut this down a little bit more. Again, a little on the wasteful side here, but this is just what you got to do to get it done in a reasonable time frame. Okay, so there's an upper hole and a lower hole. And right now I'm going off of, guys, we're going to run out of time. I'll splice on the end of this video. Okay, so we're just finishing this up, guys. What the heck did I do wrong here? I think I bent it in the wrong position. I think I did. Dang it. I totally bent it in the wrong position. I bent it in the wrong position, guys. Sorry about that. So I need to bend it there. So I'm just grabbing this off here. Just going to go right in here and get my 90-degree bend right there. And I can hang on to this. Get that square. Okay, so now I can go ahead and, dang it. Now I can get this cut. The final cut I'll probably end up doing with a grinder. Okay, so that's held tight. Oh, you would. So I think we're going to be okay now. So now I just got to get my Z-bend in here, so it doesn't have the propensity to want to pop off all the time. So on this one I got a support here, and I got to bend the other side of it. Okay. So we got our little bend there. Actually flatten that out. And I can clean up the end. So it's not sharp, or it's less sharp. That should be fine. I'd like this to be a little tighter of a bend. Holding it real tight so I can get that Z-bend. Okay. Very good. Alright, so in you go. Get in there, you turd. As you can see, this is a little awkward to get this thing fed in here, but that's fine. I can live with awkward ones. That means it's not going to come undone during flight. But like we discussed earlier, if we're going to have a control surface come off in flight, this would be the one. I think I might have been smarter to put it in the other way, though. Make my bend the other way, you know. But we'll get it. It's just going to take a little convincing. Okay, so now it's in. So now I just got to remember which way. Okay, so that's full lock up. Okay. See, now we don't have to worry at all about our little bind, because the bind's going to be made up in the rod. So, which, I mean, it's not good to bind at all, but let's just be honest, if you're going to bind, I'd rather have it bind in a way that it can handle. Okay, so now I have the mechanical advantage lined up so that it's pushing square on the rod. So the lockdown position, that's depending on the mechanism down there. So when I push on this, there's nowhere for it to go. But then if I have it like here, then it'll push it in out of the way. But as soon as we get to that locked position down, then the mechanical advantage changes because the lever point changes. Okay, so all the way down it's locked. About there it'll go up. There it's locked. All the way up. Okay? And we're mechanically locked there. And that'll really hold that thing where it needs to be. Let's see how that goes if it flips over to the side like that. One cycle and it's going to be back to where it belongs. And you see we're not putting as much pressure on that plastic each time now. Plus, this is locked in the up true position. So that's the way it's going to be, guys. In fact, I'm probably not going to screw with it anymore. I might do a little bit of back off from that position in the servo setup. Let's see how it looks. Okay, I got to get that X-Acto knife. That little knob is bothering me to death. This stupid little knob right there. That doesn't really matter. Got a knob on this one too. It's like when you're building a house. Nobody's gonna know the studs were square until they go to hang a picture, right? Alright, and then on this side, we'll just run the blade backward to knock off that little edge. Good enough. Alright, so I'll pause it and we'll come right back. So we went back into channel assign. We're going to go back from auxiliary 2, we'll put it back to switch A. Okay, which is throttle positions high, okay. And so there we go, so we got our gear switch up and down. So now we'll go into servo setup, we'll go to travel, speed, normal, so there's your normal speed. So I think I'm going to back it off from normal to 0.3 seconds down, 0.5 seconds down. Actually, the 1 second seemed about right. And then to collapse, I'm going to set it to 2. Because when you're taking off, not really a big deal, but when you're landing, you want to kind of get it down there. The thing that's nice about running a servo slower is that you're actually going to be consuming a slower rate of power. You're going to consume the same amount of power, don't misunderstand, but when you're coming into land, there's a bunch of other stuff happening, potentially. You may be cutting power here, you may be braking this motor. So, it shouldn't really be an issue, but I think it certainly looks cool when it goes slower. Gotta love it. That's so cool. Real happy with it. Locks down really nice. Actually, what I'm going to do now, hold on, let's see how it looks. I want to see how it looks if we do it real slow. So there's down, there's up. That's a little slow. Okay, good enough. I got it set. So now I'm going to go from speed to travel. Okay, so auxiliary 2 in the full position. See what's happening? That's pulling on this now. Okay, so if I go 110%, that's going to lock it mechanically, and it's going to be at the extent. So 105% gives me the same advantage with just limited over travel. So now, on the way up, that lines up perfectly square now. So it's going to be really hard for that to move. And that's only 16% over. Well, not 16%. It's 150% of travel, 150% of travel. I like it when they're lined up like that. I'm actually going to go to 10. That's close enough to perfectly lined up. Alright, so guys, elevator, rudder, landing gear. That is so cool. Let's see if I can get a light in there so you can see a little better. The tire just sucks up all the light, doesn't it? Hey, look, the glue. It's not going to take 473 years to dry. It's weird. You see how it's pushing the mechanism over? See how it's pushing over tight? Watch this. Watch this gap. Right there. When it gets all the way to the end of the throat, pushes everything into the side. I like it, guys. It's good. Everything feels tight. Toy it like a toiga. It's perfect. For now, this is where we call it quits for the evening, guys. One more awesome lick. Whoops. I'm going to make sure it's focused. Sorry. That is so cool, guys. Can't wait to show you guys this thing flying. It's going to fly good. It's going to look good. And you guys are going to get to enjoy it with me. Stick around. There's more coming. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.